It was a dark and stormy night. I was searching through torrents online, trying to find a movie to watch. After tirelessly combing through file after file, I finally came across what was listed as odd version of Shrek. I had always been a big fan of the movie Shrek, so when I saw that it was available, I decided to give it a watch. As the movie started, everything seemed normal at first. The familiar characters appeared on the screen, and the opening scene was just as I had remembered it. But as the movie progressed, something seemed off. And the weirdest part was that the voice of Shrek was being performed by the deceased comic Chris Farley. Shrek was also animated different. He looked extremely disturbing, like something that definitely shouldn't have been included in a kids' movie. When Donkey came out and started talking, I noticed that the jokes were slightly altered too. Everything was just much more adult in nature, and not as funny. It was just more upsetting, I would say. I shrugged it off at first, curious what the hell was going to happen. But as the movie continued, the changes became more and more difficult to ignore. The characters began to act increasingly violent with one another, and there were scenes that seemed to be straight out of a horror movie. I started to get an uneasy feeling in the pit of my stomach as I watched the film, and I began to really regret downloading it. I considered turning it off, but something kept me glued to the screen. I couldn't look away, even though every fiber of my being was telling me to stop. As the movie neared its end, the changes became even more horrific. The once lovable characters all began to turn into these twisted, grotesque versions of themselves, and the lighthearted story became a montage of images filled with death and terror. And then, just as the credits were about to roll, something even more shocking happened. The screen went black, and a message appeared. It was like these flashes of static coming onto the screen, eventually followed by text. The text said, "You should not have watched this movie. You should not have watched this movie." I let out a gasp and lunged for the remote, frantically trying to turn the TV off. But I quickly knew that it was too late. The damage had already been done. For the next few days, I was plagued by terrifying dreams and hallucinations of that disturbing version of Shrek stalking me everywhere I went. And I could hear the voices of characters from the film whispering in my ear at all times. I tried to tell people what had happened, but no one believed me. They thought I was just trying to get attention, or that I was losing my mind. But I knew the truth. I had somehow stumbled upon a cursed version of the movie, and now it was tormenting me. Throughout the following weeks, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was always being watched, and I was constantly on edge. I barely slept, and my appetite disappeared. I knew I had to do something to break the curse, but I had no idea where to start. So I began doing research, trying to find out anything I could about the cursed version of the movie. I scoured the internet, looking for any information that might help me. And eventually, I stumbled upon something. It seemed that this version of the movie had actually been circulating for years, but no one knew where it came from. Some people online said that it was created by a group of witches as a way to punish those who crossed them. Others claimed that it was the work of a vengeful spirit, seeking to spread its dark influence to as many people as possible. Regardless of the source, one thing was clear. The cursed version of the movie was extremely dangerous. Those who watched it were haunted by what they had seen, and many never recovered. I had to try something to break the curse, though. I considered reaching out to a spiritualist or a witch, but I wasn't sure if they'd be able to help me. And then, just when I was about to give up hope, I came across a potential solution. I found out about a group of people who claim to be able to break curses and rid people of their hauntings. Desperate and out of options, I reached out to them. They were skeptical at first. I mean, who wouldn't be if you told them you found a cursed version of the Shrek movie? But they eventually agreed to help, and the process was long and grueling. But I think they were eventually able to break the curse and rid me of the horrors that have been haunting me. It took months of intense rituals and cleansing ceremonies, but finally, the nightmares and hallucinations have mostly stopped. I am able to sleep peacefully again, and the twisted versions of the Shrek characters are no longer around every corner. I don't know how they did it, and honestly, I don't really want to know. All I care about is that I'm finally free from those cursed visions of Shrek, and I will never watch it again. I learned my lesson the hard way, and I urge anyone who comes across this version of the movie to stay far away from it. The horrors that it contains are worse than you can imagine. Trust me, it's not worth the nightmares.